Do you struggle with setting boundaries? Do you struggle to keep boundaries? If boundaries have you confused and frustrated or even down on yourself, I got you covered. Hi, I'm Susie. I help parents break generational cycles of anxiety and emotional dysregulation. If you see this pattern in your family, go get your copy of my free ebook. It's called Overcome Overwhelm, A Parent's Guide to Emotional Resilience. I'll leave the link down below. Today we're going to talk about boundaries, what they are, why they're important, how and when to set them, and we'll dive into some common misunderstandings about boundaries. Here's the bottom line. You can't have peace in your life without boundaries. So what are boundaries? Boundaries are a set of rules and limits we use to create and maintain healthy relationships. Think of a boundary as an imaginary line that separates you and someone else. A line that empowers us to live our lives based on self-defined values and priorities, what we believe in or what we think is most important. It's important to understand that boundaries are there to protect and support us and others, but cannot and will not cause others to change. Boundaries define how we want to be treated. They keep our safety, wants, and needs at the same level as others. Boundaries are not selfish, but they are a form of self-respect. Boundaries can exist in all aspects of our lives: work, home, relationships, extracurricular activities, and there are many different types of boundaries, like physical boundaries that have to do with space, touch, and belongings. An example of a physical boundary is, I value having privacy, and therefore please do not enter my room without knocking. There are time boundaries. These have to do with how we allocate our time. An example is, I value family time, and therefore Sunday evenings are carved out for my family. Therefore, I will not make any plans after 6 p.m. on Sundays. We also have intellectual boundaries. These have to do with respect of one's thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. An example of an intellectual boundary is, I want others to respect my beliefs, so I will listen to others with an open mind, even if I disagree. And then the one that we're going to talk about most here today are emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries support our emotional well-being and have to do with limits that we place around our emotional needs. This one can be a little bit trickier, especially for high empaths, those of us that value harmony and connection in relationships. Emotional boundaries involve protecting our emotions and managing how much emotional energy we invest in others. This includes being able to differentiate between your emotions and the emotions of others, and recognizing when you need time or space alone. Setting emotional boundaries can help prevent emotional burnout. An example of an emotional boundary is, I'm establishing a boundary by limiting the amount of time I spend talking about negative topics as it affects my emotional well-being. Why are boundaries important? Well, they keep us safe. They keep our relationships healthy. They keep us balanced and healthy. And they help others understand our needs. A quick story about the importance of boundaries. A couple years ago, my dad became ill. He was at the point where he could no longer drive. His health was declining, and he needed better health care and new living conditions because his only bathroom was upstairs, which was becoming problematic for him. My sister and I were doing a lot to help him coordinate his new medical team, find new living conditions for him, moving him out of his current place, and creating a new set of supports that would help him have a better quality of life given his circumstances. I was so involved in his life at that particular time and had been for a few months. that invisible line separating his life and my life had become blurred. My sister and I had pretty much taken over his life to help him get settled. At the time, I was also a single mother to 2 teenage high school boys, and I had a high-paced and time-intensive corporate career. Emotionally, I was grieving the loss of my mother-in-law, who I was very close to, and I was also facing fresh wounds of a failed relationship that left me very hurt and disappointed. One day my dad called to ask me for a favor. I can't even recall what it was now. Perhaps asking for a ride to his favorite restaurant, which would have required about 3 hours of travel time alone to get from my house to his house, to the restaurant, back to his house, and then back to my house. Or maybe he was asking me to pick up a prescription or make another phone call for him. I honestly can't recall. But when I told him that I could not do it, his response was, "Fine if you don't want to help me." I lost my shit. I started yelling and saying, "Not help you? Not help you? Are you kidding? All I've been doing is helping you." Now, admittedly, I could have handled myself much better, and he could have honored my boundary with respect and understanding, but that's a topic for a whole different day. Because I did not have my emotional and time boundaries in place, I became emotionally dysregulated. In my mind, because I highly value connection and relationships, I was going above and beyond to help him. But here's what really happened. I allowed our relationship to get to an unhealthy state because I lacked the proper boundaries to keep me balanced. I didn't make my needs known, and I ended up abandoning myself for several months while I helped take care of his needs, and then I took it out on him. I wasn't paying enough attention to the fact that I needed to have some time and space away from the situation so that I could fill up my own cup and balance his needs against other people in my life and myself. I was burnt out and no longer good for anyone. Who can relate to this? When to set boundaries. Setting boundaries can be hard, and it's not always clear on when to set them. According to a report by Harvard Business Review, professionals who set clear boundaries at work are more productive, experience less burnout, and have better work-life balance. The same thing applies in your personal life. As parents, it's easy to think about your needs last. After all, you have other humans who are depending on you. But hear me out. It's important for you to pay attention to your needs first so that you can be your best self for them. Think about when you're on a plane and the flight attendant is telling you, put your mask on first before helping others. It's the same concept here. It's not selfish. In fact, having strong emotional boundaries allows you to help others even better, but you must first give yourself the gift of emotional well-being. Boundaries should be set based upon your needs, values, opinions, and beliefs. This alone can be problematic if you're not in tune with these yet. So here are 3 clues that you need a boundary. Tune into your feelings. Feelings of anger, fear, sadness about the way that somebody treats you or behaves are a good indicator that a boundary needs to be in place to support or protect you. Pay attention to your energy level. If you find that when you're with certain people, your energy level just depletes, just goes down, down, down until it's completely depleted, and then you need several hours a day to recover from it, you need a boundary. Or look at your values. If you're being asked to do something that's against what you believe or feel strongly about it, you need a boundary. If you struggle to identify your values or your feelings, I recommend journaling. Now, this is very common. We've gone through our whole lives doing what we do. And until we take the time and pause and ask ourselves specific questions, we may be walking through life in our mid-40s without even realizing that we don't know what our boundaries are. We don't know what our values are. We're not sure what we believe in. We're not sure what our needs are. Again, completely normal, especially for those of us who have gone through the majority of our life helping and taking care of others. We've put ourselves on the back burner. If you get your journal out on a daily basis and just document your day, what you did, how you felt, and your best understanding as to why you felt that way, over time, those journal entries will tell a compelling story. You'll notice similar themes popping up over and over again. And when you do, that's an indication to dig deeper. Get to know yourself better so that you can live a life that is undeniably yours. How to set boundaries. Boundaries should be communicated clearly and assertively while you are emotionally regulated. Do not try to set your boundary when you're in a bad emotional state, or you will end up with a situation like I described with my dad earlier. Communication is the key to healthy relationships. Choose an appropriate place and time to sit down and have a conversation with the other person involved. Express your needs and your feelings using I statements. I feel. I need. Avoid using you statements. You make me. You did this. Setting a boundary is about your emotional needs. So always lead with I statements. Be direct and specific about the boundary that you are setting and why it's important to you. As Brene Brown says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Make sure you're being clear. Be sure to keep eye contact, speak confidently, speak with a firm but respectful tone. Be prepared to negotiate or compromise, especially if you're asking for something in return. But don't compromise on your needs and values. And remember, there are only 3 responses to a boundary: yes, no, or an alternative solution. If the circumstance or the nature of the relationship doesn't require a full-blown conversation, be sure to use the same rules, making sure that you are not reacting, but you are responding. Common misperceptions about boundaries. Boundaries are harsh and rigid. They're seen as some sort of wall. But if boundaries are done right, like I've described in this video, they aren't this at all. Often boundaries are thought to be demands or ultimatums, or even telling people what to do. That is not what a boundary is. You are simply asking for what you need when you're setting a boundary. Boundaries are not punishments. They are not a ploy to gain control. They are for empowerment and safety. Some say boundaries are selfish. They are not selfish, but they are a form of self-care and self-love. Boundaries are not something you do to other people. They are something that you do for yourself. If you want more information on boundaries or how to overcome overwhelm, be sure to click below to download my free ebook. Setting boundaries is one of the largest forms of self-love because it keeps what is important to you at the forefront. Boundaries equal love, and love breaks cycles. Thank you for watching. Bye, friends.